Marcos gets sucked back into an old line of work. Thunderbird goes after Blink, and Reed completely overreacts. You know, a calm conversation between a few of these characters would take care of like at least half of their problems. It's The Gifted, Season 1, Episode 7, Extreme Measures. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Gifted. So yes, spoilers, that's what we do here. Alright, so, maybe not my favorite episode this week. I mean, again, lots of potential, a lot of good ideas, but I think this has had to be like maybe the most WB of the episodes we have. Really drifting into unnecessarily and easily avoidable drama. I mean, just from the whole relationship standpoint, we realize we've got two love triangles happening right now, plus a budding relationship or the attempts at young love. So we've got, triangle number one, we've got Carmen, Polaris, and Eclipse. Then, of course, we have Dreamer, Thunderbird, and Blink as the other one, and then Lauren and Wes is the whole budding relationship with the overprotective dad. So, a lot of relationship stuff happening this week, and really, like I said, unnecessary drama. I mean, so many problems would be solved by that simple conversation. And we are repeating the exact drama from one love triangle into the next this week. And I think that's where I get kind of a little frustrated. Okay, so look, Marcos gets pulled in by Carmen. Made a deal, totally not unexpected that we're going to be getting a call and going to have to be pulled in. But so much of the drama created in this would have been fixed by that conversation between him and Polaris right then and there. Look, sweetheart, I didn't tell you this before because we were in the midst of things, but in order to get you out, I had to sort of make a deal with Carmen, my psycho ex-girlfriend, and I know you don't like it, but I got to go and do this thing. I mean, something to sort of bring that up, because of course it creates frustration with Polaris when she obviously finds out that Marcos didn't go up to Murrieta because he's taken so long. Was he gone like 2 days? Seemed like 1 day, but when he got to Carmen's, I thought she said like, tomorrow we're going to be raiding this place. So I didn't know how long he was gone. Kind of imprecise, I suppose. But even that whole thing, I mean, and then we've got Carmen, who is obviously trying to sucker him in and pulling the relationship stuff and things that he used to do. Really kind of hard. So, I mean, that was a little cheesy. That was a little much. Subtlety sometimes, I think, works a little better. Now, when we did get Marcos on the actual mission, and he was lighting up, and Carmen's been pushing this whole time of kind of implying this sort of pyromaniac side of Eclipse that hasn't been revealed yet, that he liked to see things burn. And we see him when he sets off that whole, when he goes in and burns the drug mule. There was an interesting look in his face of joy, of like, I like this, almost like I missed this. And now that would be an interesting through line. I mean, I'm hoping they're going to build off of that. But see, that would be an interesting through line of maybe why Polaris was so concerned, why he wouldn't have told her. He tells her and she's concerned, I don't want you going back to the old thing, oh, it's just going to be the one bit. And that kind of starts to spark this sort of darker side of him. That might be interesting. Now, we haven't seen any evidence of that before, so it sort of makes it feel like a new thrown-in storyline, like, we need to go somewhere with it, let's make him a pyromaniac. Just because, again, whenever he's used his powers before, there hasn't seemed to be that sort of joy. He's been precise and not really burning. So, like I said, there are elements within this that really would be an interesting sort of pursuit, a dark side of Eclipse sort of coming out here that Polaris is really scared of. And we caught that scene from years ago when they first are pulling Marcos in, and the kind of ideas, we know what you're into and we can sort of handle it, that maybe it was a tough thing to pull him out and to make that change. This is kind of the interesting storyline that would be much better to be pursued outside, like I said, this unnecessary drama of Carmen just throwing herself at Marcos. and then the lack of communication between Marcos and Polaris. Because again, by the end there, now you just have unnecessary relationship drama, which should be pulling them together, being a point of strength, now unnecessarily pushing them apart. Now someone, of course, who has dealt with the problems and the fallout of when you're not being totally honest and straightforward with people, we have Thunderbird John going after Blink. And in the sequence I actually kind of liked in this week. One thing I like, the taking their time, they're building their kind of relationship and attraction. Now I have to say, part of me gets a little frustrated, like when Thunderbird first shows up at Blink and the whole spilling of soup and I can't take care of myself. I would think that Blink's been moving around for a while, that she can cook soup. But, okay. But for somebody that keeps putting out how upset she is of this memory of this, soap opera that's been put in her head, all of her actions certainly seem to be pushing to try and get John to make that, emotional response towards her, like, no, I really do like you, even though that would be an obvious complication. So there's a little bit of annoyance to me as how much she's kind of pushing away, but kind of like, go away, come here. Go away, come here. Go away, come here. There's a little bit of that. But the exploration of kind of her past, getting that sort of idea of how she was raised, foster family, of certain protection, and tying into the whole, Blink craziness that happened the other episode when she kept opening the doorway to that farmhouse or to that area. The fact that pulls in Sentinel services so that from that point they're able to find the farmhouse and thus kill the parents and create that whole emotional loss for Blink. There's a great cause and effect here that's going on where you can see where she is feeling responsible, that without control of her powers, that this type of fallout could happen. I'm hoping that we do discover that if Sentinels probably took the kids for Hound, maybe she'll be able to blink in and reconnect with some of the other kids that she knew. That would be a nice bonus. But I kind of liked it. They took their time to tell this story. They didn't rush it, they didn't push it, and the natural emotional instincts between John, who was starting to like her, maybe even outside of his own expectations. Why? Because she's a good person. I mean, and this is why Marcos went to Polaris away from Carmen, because Carmen's crazy and Polaris, at least in comparison, she has her issues, is nice. It's the same thing that's going on with Thunderbird. He's going after Blink because Blink has that noble kind of heart. And for Dreamer, while she's nice in many ways and helps out her friends, she still has that ends justifies the mean action, which is going to be at conflict. So I like the fact they're taking time. They're not getting into it. They didn't get to a kiss or anything like that. They just had a couple of hug moments. Maybe a little too hard, maybe a little too long, for just friends. But I like the idea of at least sort of taking the time with us. And now we have Blink back for a reason to get into the fight. And Reed and Caitlin. Look, the parents are annoying the hell out of me. I'm going to say that straight out. Really, just everything with them lately annoys the heck out of me. I understand Wes being the Reed being the ex-prosecutor and is concerned and finds maybe drawing that sort of reminds to Wes, but how they were reacting to whatever he had done. I mean, they talked about theft and then there was some reaction like, oh my God, this horrible person. I'm thinking some sort of kidnapping or death or ransom or murder. And even when Lauren confronts Wes about what had happened, oh my God, it's true. What'd you do? You stole jewelry from a guy. That's it? Look, and I understand theft is a bad thing. From a prosecutor, you break the law, then you're a criminal. Okay, I get that. But they should be past that at this point. I mean, Caitlin stole a bunch of medicine from the hospital so they could bring back. She's stolen, she is taken. And yes, maybe, money and things for personal gain. I get that versus need. But they didn't ask him. They didn't inquire what the situation, if he was up with the gang and he was young and impressionable and needed, there's the interesting story that you could have pulled out of this. Of talking to Wes and the idea of like, look, that higher education of, we are mutants. We have been running. Even Caitlin was talking to the kid the other week who was, you know, hungry and it was hurting him because he had to use his powers at the time just to get some food. They should be understanding the idea that theft, the gray area, and yes, Reed gets to that at the end, but it's too long, it's too much. It's an unnecessary reaction. Yet he didn't kill anybody, he stole some stuff. You guys have all stolen stuff at this point. And sure, it was nice that Caitlin was kind of the maturing voice to like, you've got to go and do it, but still, it is still, they should be beyond these points. The parents really are dragging things down. I think both Reed and Caitlin, and I love Amy Acker, don't get me wrong, but I can't stand the characters in there. And then even when they end it all, you know, sure, Reed goes up and says, I'm going to be the good guy, you should come forward and just tell it yourself, because that's a lesson we want to learn. Just be honest and be truthful. Okay, good thing. Certainly Sage was right. That's the way that things built on, and you have to have trust within this. But then at the end of it, it's kind of a non-poot, because this new character that we brought in is now just leaving. They could bring him back, but they do give that basic dismissal. So instead of bringing a new character, learning someone, sort of developing that it's just, you know, character of the week or 2 weeks, the new little love drama that we're going to push through so we can get back to all the fresh relationship stuff. I enjoyed this show so much, and they opened up because there was a tense, interesting storyline, that things were pushed and there was danger and there was concern, and now there just seems to be a lot of waiting around, being dramatic for drama's reason, and that's kind of boring. Oh, and we can't wrap things up without talking about Sentinel Services. Yeah, subtlety, not Roger Campbell's point. Okay, so we already have Jace from last week talking about, forget the law, forget warrants, we're just going to go and push things, and now we've got to work with Kodrick, and they're going to be pulling in all the mutant assets. So, hey, at least we got a brief DOJ kind of heads up. Talking about, you know, this warrantless pursuit and wiretapping and everything isn't going to stand. You can't just be releasing crazed, you know, brainwashed mutants out into the field. I appreciate at least there was that thought of reining in, that idea of some sort of positive government oversight for just a half second. Like I said, subtlety, not the standpoint. So when you're in the middle of the meeting with the DOJ representative, is not the time you stick the mutant on her and cause a brain embolism. Whatever they ended up having. One, it looked a little obvious. Jay certainly caught it, where you have the one guy standing there, looking all intense with the clenched fist. That's something you do outside of the meeting. Down the road as they're walking to their car or driving in their car, and you drive up behind or next to them and you do it through the window. I mean, subtlety. Not in a way that makes it so obvious. Even Bryce was saying, look, this is a little convenient. On the other hand, I do like Roderick's point of, at least, yeah, they'll send somebody else, but we have a couple of weeks to do our time. So in a sense of buying time, sure. But again, subtlety, something they gotta work on a little bit. Alright, just a couple of small things. One, calling Wes textbook bad influence. Just a little foreshadowing what happened the rest of the episode there, Lorna. But that was some bad green screen of them floating in front of the illusion. I mean, I understand he's creating illusions and maybe they don't look entirely real, but before everything looks pretty solid. It certainly worked pretty realistic with the whole truck escape there. So really, no excuse for it. Don't do an unnecessary effect if it's not going to look good. That wasn't really needed to do as a big flying sequence like that. And it didn't look good, so it really pulls you out. And speaking of Wes, when Reed did find that information and, you know, say he was asking Sage about the whole vetting process that she goes through, I understand the idea, and later on it's good that she was sort of protecting Wes on that standpoint. However, again, lack of communication right there. Could have been talking to Sage, getting some insight, maybe some thoughts about what happens with mutants, why only murder and revenge against mutants, but other things are allowed to fall to the side. Just communication, folks. Really stop hiding things when you don't need to. And again, with the DOJ sort of holding things in line, I like the line that the representative said, "This isn't Fallujah," in response to the FBI's or Sentinel Services kind of push for unwarranted surveillance. The Patriot Act has been used routinely, throughout shows at least, as sort of a carte blanche to go after anyone. So at least I like the idea that maybe there's a little pushback against that maybe we have gone just a little too far and we can't do that everywhere. It also, in a strange way, kind of puts the government almost on the mutant side, because she does follow that up with the statement of, you know, just rescinding right for people because you don't like them has been tried before and shown that doesn't really work. So, as much as the government is pursuing mutants, in some ways at least, they're working as some sort of arbiter, versus Sentinel Services, which is, you know, totally after them. The phone call between Bryce and Campbell at the end there, when Campbell was in the limousine and said, "We've got a few weeks, the DOJ is going to replace him. Grace would be proud." That's kind of cold. But I gotta say, the whole dead daughter thing is starting to get a little annoying to me, just because they keep pushing it. I mean, it was bad enough that was sort of, it's one thing that it was his motivation, but then to have just recently re-brought up the memory as some sort of justification for all these other bad decisions, just, I don't know, again, just weak emotional heartstring pulling. All right, and that ending where we find out about get our connection to Trask Industries. Trask and Sentinel sort of makes sense, and also that Reed's father worked for 35 years for Trask Industries. What a coincidence! Okay, I mean, again, he had to be the big prosecutor fighting against mutants, and now they got mutant kids, so there's a reason to push there. But now with the whole Trask Industries, I mean, I don't know, maybe that in some ways might have influenced Reed to become the prosecutor, and that might work in. But again, these big extended family connections are just a little tropic, just a little too easily connected. But that does open up some interesting ideas. We get to see some probably insights in the early days of mutanthood, do a little of our connection between Days of Future Past into now. I think that should be pretty much fun. So, also, do want to make a note. Mia Lovely, commenter, you are very right. It is 13 episodes. From what I saw originally, it was 10, but I guess they have updated, they have changed. So 13 episodes, which means you might be going into January. At this point. I'm not sure when they're going to break. But it is kind of exciting. That means we're about halfway through right now. And that means we still get a chance to really dive in to do a good whole last arc going against Hound and with the infiltrators and all that. So a lot of interesting points. Again, I am with the show. I like the ideas behind it. I like the overall design and character work and such. The cheap, emotional, heartstring pulling stuff, I think is unnecessary. You know, don't do extra episodes if you have to do unnecessary filler stuff. Make the pursuit, make the storyline interesting. Stretch it out, take your time. Don't do just cheap filler. Please don't add another love triangle into the show. 2 is already too many. So, anyway, that's it. Still very excited to see what's coming up next week. So, if you did enjoy this review, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, comments, throw them down in the section below. What did you think of this episode? Do you like all those moments? Is that really what's grabbing you? I like the character work also, but is it the relationship that's grabbing you, or do you think that might be a little bit too much? What is it that you like out of the show? What's working for you? Throw those down. I'd be really curious what you all think. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. It's quick, it's easy, doesn't cost you anything. Just hit my face right here, and you'll catch this reviews, plus Mr. Robot, upcoming Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Dirk Gently's Listing Detective Agency, Walking Dead, so much stuff. In fact, we'll go ahead and throw up a couple of latest reviews right here. You can check those out. All right, so that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.